Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel Accounts Gurukul. Learn accounting online. So today we are here with one more query. What we have from one of our viewers is that, sir, vendor ने AMC bill दिया है for period March 2023 to May 2023. Bill date 1st March 2023 है. Bill amount 40,000 है. इसका प्रोविजन कैसे करें? Please guide. Okay, so I will convert this into the English and we'll continue. So the vendor submitted the AMC bill for the period of March 23 to May 23. The bill date is 1st March 23. Bill amount is 40,000. Now the question is that how we have to take the provision for this. This is a question. This is a query what we have from one of our viewer. Now that's we are going to discuss through the practical as well. We are going to take this example as a case study and I'm going to explain to you how it's going to be work. Again, the one thing which I always like to inform to all of our viewers, just to do the focus towards the basic concept of accounting. And if your foundation is strong, then you are going to be create a magic into accounting and finance. So just do the focus towards the basic concept of accounting. And this is also is going to be impact towards that. And we are going to discuss and to help our viewers to how it's going to be work. So confusion, provision, actual invoice, prepayment. Let's discuss with practical. So just be with us till the end of this to know how to take the entry of this. Request viewers to like, share, and subscribe our channel to get the more practical knowledge related to accounting and finance. We have the lots of questions, queries from our viewers on the email, on the YouTube, on everywhere. So it's taking some time to answer to all of you, knowing that I have to run the show. So don't worry, we'll come through this more one by one. So we'll jump towards this, how it's going to be work in a practical scenario by taking into this case study, how it's going to be work. So the vendor has submitted the AMC bill, or we have given the vendor has submitted the AMC bill for the period of April 23 to May 23. So we have received invoice for AMC from our vendor for the period March 23 to May 23. Dated 1st March 23 and amounting to rupees 40,000. Okay. And this is the date is going to be, yeah. So how it's going to be work? So here, the question is that how the provision is going to be work. The first thing is that what I want to explain is that what is mean by provisions? And the provisions and when the provision is going to be coming to the pictures. The provisions is going to be coming to the pictures when, so we'll plot it here. Provision when you avail the services. Okay. But you haven't received invoice from your service provider, then you have to take the provision. Okay, so the provisions is going to be work, and that there is a difference between the accruals and provisions, but there's a slight difference. So most of the entities used to take the provision itself. So we are going to discuss about that. So the provisions, when you avail the services, but you haven't received invoice from your service provider, and you have to take the provisions. And if you have received the invoice, then the provision is not going to be come into the pictures. So here in your query, how to take the provision of this. So first thing, the provision is not going to come in this case study because against your AMC, you have received the invoice from your vendor. So there is no need to take the provisions. Provision is going to be come to the pictures when you avail the services, but you haven't received the invoice and you haven't booked the invoice for that. Then you have to take the provisions based on the accrual concept of accounting. But here you have received invoice for your AMC, then the provision is not going to come into the pictures for March 23. So that's the first. Now, then how it's going to be work? That's the second scenario. So coming back to the second, when you receive the invoice as on 1st March, then what you have to do the entry into the systems. So you have to book the invoice, and what you are going to do, if it's an AMC annual maintenance contract, then you are going to say that AMC expenses account debit. Might be you have the some uh, annual maintenance expenses or certain different nomenclature for your ledger. So, but we are considering here as an AMC expenses account debit towards the P&L, and that's going to be 40,000. Okay. Now, coming back to the next is going to be 2. Your vendor account is going to be credit. And that's the same for 40,000. So here, if you want to know how it's going to be work from the TDS standpoint as well, we'll plot the entry for that. 2 TDS is going to be under section 194C. That's a contract. And again, here as well, if your AMC with vendors is company, then your TDS is going to be at the rate of 2%. And if it's an individual, then the TDS is going to be 1%. Okay, it's a 1%. How do you know this? This is based on your PAN number. Yeah. Now coming back to here is going to be assuming that this is the company and we are going to deduct the TDS. That's 2% on that amount. And you are going to credit to your vendor account for 39,200. Now coming back to the next, these expenses is for the period of March 23 to May 23. That's going to be your March, April, May. That's going to be for 3 months, right? For the March, April, and May. So for the 3 month, you have the expenses of 40,000. Then how much is for the 1 month? That's going to be 13,333, right? March, April, May. Yes, for the 3 month. Now, the entire amount you have debited towards the P&L. Then the next picture is going to be come. Now the next picture is going to be start. So here you have debited all this towards the P&L. So either this is going to be expense of within the 1 month or not? And if it's not, then what's going to be happen? So these expenses is pertaining for the 3 month and not for only the March. So that expenses is related to the future committed services, what your vendor is going to be provide. So the respective amount for April and May, we have to take out from the P&L because that's not the expenses for the March. Then where we have to park it, that we have to take towards the prepaid expenses. And the next entry is going to be come into the picture as on 31st March 23. That's going to be your prepaid expenses account debit towards the balance sheets. This is going to be divided by 3 into 2. That's this much. Okay. 2 AMC expenses account credit. That's going to be 26,667. Now, if you see how much is actual you have debit in P&L, that's a 40,000 less 26. So that's 13,333. That's the actual expenses pertains to March. And how is going to be walk into the future period? So when you are going to reach into the April, what do you have to pass the one more entry? That AMC expenses account is going to be debit. To your prepaid expenses going to be credit. What's the amount? That amount is going to be 13,333. Then the same entry, you have to pass it for March, for May as well. So when you are going to enter into the May, so you have to pass the same entry into the books. Then if you see the ledger of your prepaid expenses, it's debited 26,667. You have credited here. Again, you have credited. So prepaid expenses is 0. How much is total your AMC expenses debited? This is first. Then this is also is debited. And this is also is debit. And this is going to be credit. So 40,000. That 40,000 is across for 3 months. That's for the March, April, and May. So in your query, it's going to be talk about the three concepts. First is invoice booking. Second, towards the prepaid expenses. And third is taking off, doing expense of that prepaid from the prepaid expenses. And you have to book that expenses. So provision is not going to be come here because you got the invoice and that invoice is for the future period. So your prepaid expenses is going to be come into the picture. So that's all from this. And I hope you are able to get the clarity now. What's mean by provisions? What's when you have to consider the provisions, when you have to take out towards the uh, prepaid, and how you're going to do the expense off from prepaid to expenses. So thanks guys for being with us till the end of this, and request viewers to like, share and subscribe our channel to get the more practical knowledge related to accounting and finance. Thank you.